I've seen a lot of ideas floating around in the comments about potential diagnoses. What do people think about that? A lot of people have kind of asked me in the comments about my idea of diagnosing Silco. What are people's thoughts on this? We will navigate our way through this through understanding his behavior. It doesn't really matter what the answer is, it's going to head in the same place. People who voted yes, what are your thoughts? Just throw me out what you think potentially, kind of gut instinct diagnosis. Right, what have we got? Let's see what people have said. So we've got BPD. So we've got potentially, let's write them at the top here. So BPD is what generally we came up with for Jinx. You think he's got the same presentation as Jinx? So let me pick some of these out. I haven't read them yet. So I'm curious. I'm so curious what thoughts people have, because I feel like his behavior is very interesting to look at and analyze, but I hadn't considered any potential diagnosis. Okay. Whatever it is to a less severe degree to Jinx. Yep. While I can't state to a diagnosis in of itself, the fact that he's had to harm himself to extent. Yeah. Great. The only thing I can imagine is that he has antisocial personality disorder. Okay. The ASPD. Feels odd to diagnose Silco. I don't really feel that he is ill. Carol says similar, but Carol says, I don't know, maybe antisocial. I think he is to even kill for something like BPD. There's Shelley. David, I guess it's character limit. The deaths, I'll kill your son and other criminal underworld overlord behaviors, but also in pursuit of his own political ideological goals. Makes for a very complex psyche. It does. The whole situation is just complex, isn't it? Addiction and grief. What else have we got? We don't really see him dysregulated except for once in episode 6. What happens in episode 6? When oh yes, of course, when the water tower comes down. I'm guessing is what you're talking about. Which looked almost like rage, wasn't it? Pure rage in 6. 9. What point does it become dysregulated in 9? Remind me. Oh, think he might get killed by Savika. So when she's standing behind him and she's getting her sword out. So Patrick, yeah. So talking to kind of addiction here, I'm guessing. Sarah, when you said addiction, did you mean addiction to Shimmer? Or addiction to something else like power or something? Yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? I've seen a few theories of this banded about, with some people adamant that nothing is going into the eye, that it's actually taking something out of the eye. I'm not so sure. I think it looks like he's using Shimmer as some kind of, like a small dose of some kind of medical aid, but I'm not 100% sure on that. He's very well controlled though, and to be honest, other than seeing a few periods of dysregulation in times when you might expect one to be dysregulated, I don't think you would suggest he has a problem with dysregulation. Yeah, Luano, I think it's Shimmer in small doses too. I'm part of that club. So it's interesting. So it's interesting that 50-50 thinks that he's got something diagnosable, and 50% of you don't think that he does. The reason I ask this is because I have had a few comments asking what my thoughts were on Silco being a narcissist. So yeah, last thing, back still with you. Let's bring your comment forward. I'm not familiar with what it takes to diagnose with NPD. Can we pull up the criteria? We will do. Because the very first thought I had about Silco, my gut feeling was no diagnosis. And then people started throwing around kind of sociopath and psychopath things, but they're not really concrete, definable terms in terms of clinical diagnosis. They're not what we would use. But essentially, what a sociopath's new term is antisocial personality disorder. But I think, yeah, Carol, I kind of agree. Yeah, Alex, 100%. Like, because all of Silco's behavior is understandable, isn't it? Like, within context, it makes sense. So we'll pull up the let's pull up the actual criteria. So what we'll do for those who were part of the 2 Jinx ones, we'll use the DSM-5 for this, and we won't go with the alternative model. We'll go for the categorical model. For people who don't understand that, there's 2 different ways in the DSM. Right. So this is the actual. So this is the DSM. Okay. You have to meet kind of 2 criteria. You have to meet the criteria for a general personality disorder. So we've got an enduring pattern of inner experience and behavior that deviates markedly from the expectations of the individual's culture. In 2 ways, either the way he perceives himself and others, in terms of his range of emotions, emotional stability, emotional dysregulation, interpersonal functioning, so as in relationships, and impulse control. Do we think he struggles in two of those areas, which deviates from the culture and context he is in? That's probably the key bit here. We're not talking about if you were to see him walking down the street today. I don't really see much of these. I don't think, personally. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I agree, Shelley. I don't think it's enough to deviate from the norms, really. I mean, he has maybe moments, but I don't think it's particularly intense. Like Patrick says, I think the child labour force used for Shinma was very important detail in episode 8-9. It reminds you established early with Deckard. Yep. Look who uses people. No more coming. Everyone assumes he's using powder. The emotional wrinkle is that he's not, he can't. Yep. Yeah, this is the bit that I think is really important. He wasn't doing anything because he enjoyed it. He was doing it with the goal of improving life for the people he was on. He had a very specific goal. Now, could you say that goal is dysfunctional in terms of how he perceives and interprets himself and the world? I mean, maybe the next bit, because this is just one part. So we also have the enduring pattern is inflexible and pervasive, as in always there, across a broad range of personal and social situations. But it's his entire life, isn't it? C, the enduring pattern leads to clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. Do we see clinically significant distress or impairment in any of the domains of his life? Do we see a pattern is stable and of long duration? Well, he's probably been this way for a while. Well, I don't think I know much about his upbringing and predisposing factors at the moment. E, the enduring pattern is not better explained as a manifestation or consequence of another mental disorder, as in it can't be explained by something else, by another mental health problem. Well, we don't think he's got a mental health problem or mental disorder here. So, and then it's not because of substances, head trauma, traumatic brain injury, etc. So we need to satisfy. So if we were to give this, we'd have to satisfy that there's the enduring pattern of inexperience and behavior that deviates markedly from expectations of the individual's culture. I'm not sure if there is, especially the culture down in the underground. Is it inflexible across a range of personal social situations, and does it lead to clinical significant distress or impairment? I'm not sure. I don't see him hitting all of them. And this is just the general criteria. This is before we actually get into the more specific ones. So if we start looking at so it'll be cluster B. There we go. Narcissistic personality disorder. So here we go. So this is the criteria. So a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, a need for admiration and lack of empathy beginning by early adulthood and presents in a variety of contexts. So you need 5 out of these. So there's a list of 9 things here. You need 5. So we need 5 of these. As a grandiose sense of self-importance, does he exaggerate achievements and talents? Does he expect to be recognized as a superior without commensurate achievements? But let's do it this way, because diagnostic criteria. Does he meet 1? Let's see what people think. We'll do a minute on each one, or maybe 30 seconds. I mean, it's probably too long. So 1 is, does he have a grandiose sense of self-importance? I mean, he clearly has a mission. He clearly has a vision of how he wants things to be. He has a quite a specific goal. Yeah, Carol, we don't see him praising himself. It's more about community. Shelley, I don't think he meets enough for a diagnosis. He's been affected by life in the Undercity and the violence he endured. Exactly. It's adaptation, isn't it? It's not pathological. It's not an illness or a disease. It's adaptation. Right. So no, 100% on no. 2, he's preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. So is he preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love? I don't think he wants unlimited success in my view, or unlimited power. I think once he got to the stage where Zorn was allowed to run itself outside of the Piltover Council, what would have happened then, do you think? Would he have tried to stay at the top? What would have happened? That's right, Patrick. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't completely freak out the idea of being betrayed by Savika. And he does seem to show some respect to Jace. Shelley, I don't think it's fantasy either. I agree. He just wants his freedom. I doubt he would fight for top. Yeah, I kind of get that kind of feeling. I know feeling isn't evidence for making a diagnosis, but that's the kind of feeling that I get as well. He'd probably have a council. Yeah, I'd imagine so. He doesn't rule the underground alone. Being top dog, like last thing says, being top dog was just necessary for freedom. I don't think it was particularly grandiose. Right. So we haven't got these two. 3, believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people. Quarter point. David says quarter point on 3 and half on 6 and 7, maybe. Exactly right. So, this is quite subjective, isn't it? And you've got your own, as a diagnosing clinician, you have your own thresholds really for what this means, for where you would kind of say yes or no in each of these things. You've got your own threshold. So no, so more people choosing yes this time. So believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people. I'm guessing he doesn't have an opportunity to, like, we don't see much opportunity, I don't think, of him associating or wanting to associate with other special or high status people. I don't know if there are other people who hold that status around him. But then if that was his goal, if that was his sole goal, if you forget about the independence of Zorn, he could probably worm his way into the council in Piltover somehow, under the guise of peace or something. They'd probably try to shaft him later on, but if he felt that's where he belonged because of his importance, then he could have probably tried to engineer that. So I would go no for 3 personally, but we'll go with the majority. So 81% of you are saying no. 4, does he require excessive admiration? So again, excessive is a very subjective term here that we'd have to agree on. This is why in real life, you don't really have a individual clinician diagnosing. It would be done by a multidisciplinary team, with lots of history. There'd be people who know the person quite well by this point. The person themselves would be involved with this, because remember, the whole reason that they would be being diagnosed in real life is probably because they've presented as, I need help with something, I want to understand what's going on for me. So they would, you don't we don't just diagnose random people on the street or people that we know just behind their backs, kind of like how we're doing here. But we would they'd be involved in this process and giving us way more information about kind of what's going on. Where did we get up to? 4. Requires excessive admiration. Just going to shorthand it to 4, just because it's awkward for me to reach over my keyboard, my iPad here. If he doesn't score here, then 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 left, so he'd have to score in the next 5 to meet the diagnostic criteria. Big no. Yeah. Let's end that one there. Everyone's got no. So what else have we got? 5, has a sense of entitlement, i.e. unreasonable expectations of especially favourable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. People think about this one. Does he have a sense of entitlement? But kind of unreasonably so. Remember, we're talking about something that would be clinically significant here. Last thing, right? I don't think it's unreasonable to want kind of clean air and water and freedom and kind of parity with the rest of society. Does he have a sense of entitlement from other people that he's kind of working with? I don't know. I don't get that vibe from him really at all. Yeah, you're right, Patrick. He is a mob boss. He is a mob boss. But does that give him a sense of entitlement? Does he have unreasonable expectations? Or does he expect favorable treatment? I mean, there's a potential here, isn't there? There's a potential. The majority of people going no. 6, is he interpersonally exploitive? I.e., does he take advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends? I mean, he exploited Marcus a fair bit. Yeah, I mean, Carol just kind of brings up a good point there around 5. 5 is around societal conflicts. Again, what differs exactly? What does differ him from Mel? Maybe that is a discussion to have at some point. Maybe when we talk about Mel. Where are we at with, did I not start the poll? Oh, I have started the poll for 6. Yes. Oh, yes, 89%. So yes, he is interpersonally exploitive. Because he's a crime lord. Yeah, right. Yeah, Marcus has entered the chat. Yeah, exactly. That's the first one that comes to mind. 1,000 times yes. Deckard, the children, the barons, yeah, the sheriff, the enforcers. The twisters, not drinks. Yeah, I was kind of waiting to see if anyone would bring drinks up. I was wondering if anyone was going to make the argument. But no one has. I think we're all on the same page in here, to be honest, with this. So yeah, so we've got one. We've hit one so far. So let me just end that. Lacks empathy. I mean, I've seen some evidence of empathy. Lacks empathy is unwilling to identify with the feelings and needs of others. Yep, drinks is evidence of empathy. That's a clear one that I can think of. He can empathize. He can empathize. He does choose to turn it off to do what he feels he needs to. Yeah, but he can. It's not that he's unwilling completely. Because remember, we're talking pervasive here. We're talking about all the time. Exactly, right? Yeah, I mean, this is a good point. Does he empathize with anyone else, though? His reaction to the boy's death, the Ken Baron's son, can't think of her name, in an interesting way. Does he empathize with Vanda? I think he does empathize with Vanda. I think he is... Remember, we're talking about just recognizing the feelings of others. We don't have to do something about that. That then turns into compassion. We want to take the pain and the hurt away from someone else because that's what we've identified they're feeling. That's compassion. Remember, empathy is just the ability to recognize it in someone else. Yeah, so we've got evidence of empathy, haven't we? You could potentially make a case that, is it enough? I don't know. Remember, though, at the beginning, we've got the general criteria of personality disorder, which says this does actually have to cause him some impairment in the domains. Exactly, Patrick. Yeah. What does lack empathy mean? I mean, this is quite subjective, isn't it? So we're going to go no, 85% no. So it only leaves us two more. So we might as well go through them. 8 is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her. Have we seen any evidence of him being envious other than of like Piltover having clean water and air? And anyone in the underground that he's envious of? Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, so he's kind of envious of Piltover, is he? He doesn't. I don't know if envious is the right word, but he doesn't like that social divide. Hence his entire plan. But I wouldn't say that's particularly narcissistic, like you said before, wanting social equality. But I don't think he seems envious of anyone else in terms of their status or in terms of their wealth or their materialistic goods or things that they have within the underground itself. Patrick says, not sure, he wasn't really envious of Vanda, and he definitely could have been. He actually respected Vanda's position. Yeah. I think Carol said something interesting there. It's so complex because it's social conflict. Exactly. It all makes sense within the social conflict context. Yeah, David, that's why I was saying I'm not sure if envious is really the right word for that. Kind of, he wants it. That's what he wants. He wants the social equality, but it doesn't feel like it matches the kind of the ethos of the term envious, does it? Sarah says maybe Vi when he saw he was losing Jinx a bit at the end. Maybe a bit of envy there. But again, I think that would be understandable. I don't think that would be pathological in any way. Yeah, respect is different from envy. Yeah. It starts getting interesting when we start looking at how we all use what tend to be day-to-day words and language just differently from each other, especially the real nuanced meanings. So what have we gone for? No, 95%. Nice. Okay. So we got one more. It shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. What does haughty mean? I'm going to look it up because that's one of those words that I'm not sure if I fully understand what it means in my browser. Haughty, because when we're talking about diagnosing someone, we want to understand the terms that we know we're getting them right. So arrogantly superior. Shows arrogantly superior or attitudes. I don't think he's arrogant. He's just the one in charge. Yeah, I mean, he kind of if he wants to stay in charge, he kind of has to take control, doesn't he, and be seen as the one in charge. And whether that's kind of his natural behavior or whether there's a bit of a kind of this is how I'm meant to be side to it. Yeah, I agree, Maria. Yeah. This is a conclusion we're coming to and not from our own kind of assumptions or our own hunches. We're coming to this conclusion by actually checking and looking and using the actual diagnostic criteria. So no, I would say he doesn't. I mean, that's 57% of you says no to 9. I mean, I can understand that. I can see how people could say yes to that. So at best, we've got like 2 maybes out of these 9. So I don't think he would end up with a diagnosis. I don't think he'd end up with a diagnosis of anything, to be honest. Someone said antisocial personality disorder. So that when people tend to refer to sociopaths, this is what they mean. This is kind of the updated term for it. I mean, we won't go through the whole thing, but just so you can see, this is a criteria for antisocial personality disorder. I'll just bring it down. You'll better see it all. So you need 3 of the 7. I mean, social norms is a bit of a difficult thing to unpick, isn't it? In the underworld. Is it the underworld or underground? I've confused myself now because I keep using it interchangeably. 5. There we go. Underground or undercity. Yeah. Underground. You think of underworld like that. I tell you why I keep saying underworld, because I used to be really into electronic music, and I really used to love Underworld, the band. That's why it keeps coming to mind. Patrick, okay, let's see. Let me pop your comment out. Hold on. 2, 4, 5, and 7. So you need 3. So 2, deceitfulness as indicated by repeated lying, use of aliases, or conning others for personal profit or pleasure. Yeah, I mean, you can see how that might relate more to being problematic behavior in real life. But the question is, does that number 2, does that lead to him being distressed in the domains of his life? Because don't forget, we've still got to hit these. The pattern leads to clinically significant distress or impairment in those domains. In occupational, is he impaired in his occupational domain? I'm not sure. But let's say he was coming to us and saying he was struggling, just to open up the conversation around the rest of this criteria. So 2, I mean, he does, doesn't he? He does display this behavior. The fact it doesn't cause him distress is another matter, but he does. I mean, he clearly shows kind of deceitfulness and kind of using others for personal profit. We do see that, but it's not. You're right, Patrick. But it's not an impairment. I mean, he's not really particularly impaired at all, is he? He seems to be functioning and moving towards what he wants relatively well. What was the other ones you said? So 2, 4, irritability and aggressiveness is indicated by repeated physical fights or assaults. Does he fight much? Is he irritable and aggressive? I mean, he's certainly got an aggressive nature in terms of his plans. Beating up one of his thugs for no reason. When did he do that? Was that when he was enraged when the water tower? Remember, this has to be pervasive. It's a pervasive pattern. So it's across the lifespan for him. Like, it's frequent. So yeah, okay, questionable. I can see some comments coming through. Yeah, questionable. I mean, I guess he does stab Vander, doesn't he? But like you say, they're both exceptional circumstances. They're very highly emotive, stressful circumstances. I don't think he's going around doing it kind of day to day. Or maybe he is. I don't know. Yeah, exactly, David. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. The problem with narratives is they only show snippets, so we don't know his kind of day to day, hour to hour life as much. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see how this could fit. 5, reckless disregard for safety of self or others. Yeah, potentially in the scheme of his big plan. I think he's willing to take that risk, but it's somewhat understandable. Vi is more irritable and aggressive than Silco will ever be. She loves it. She loves fighting Savika, doesn't she? She needs to stop that. Yeah, exactly. It is it? He doesn't have any real regard for safety of self or others. I don't think. But it's motivated by his plan. And 7, lack of remorse, as indicated by being indifferent or to rationalizing having hurt, mistreated, or stolen from another. Yeah, he doesn't seem to have much remorse in some of the interactions he's had with people. Yeah. Vi solves all of her problems with her fists and blocks all attacks with her face. Yeah. So yeah, I think there is some lack of remorse there. He's remorseful, I think, towards certain people, but generally speaking, unless you're in his close knit circle, I don't think he really gives much of a shit about you. So yeah, so 5 and 7 maybe. So you need 3 or more of them. I mean, it's all kind of moot because it doesn't actually cause him any distress or impairment. But let's say it did. Let's say he presented with his presentation and said, "I want some help. I'm not feeling great." You'd probably be looking at 2. You might be able to pull a third out, maybe. I mean, like if all that was going on in England today, yeah, okay, we might be having a different conversation. But within the context of Arcane, the way he's adapted his behavior, the way he has his plan around social inequality, I think some of this is understandable. So Patrick says, I think stick to, yeah, I agree. I don't think he has. That my first reaction to this was, I don't think he's got a diagnosis. And I was quite interested, surprised, if anything, when people were messaging me saying, what do you think of this narcissistic personality disorder? Those with antisocial can still form attachments to others. Yeah. I feel like if anything, I'll be looking. Look, I work with loads of people with antisocial personality disorder diagnosis or at least emerging. And they've got attachments with other people. They're in with close-knit groups and, they have close relationships with people. I've been looking at that because there are too many elements of NPD missing. Yeah, exactly. But I don't think he needs a diagnosis at all. I agree. I think. I'm just thinking if there's any... I can't remember if the DSM-5 actually gives a... So if it's not anti-personality disorder, does it? I think this might give a differential. Here we go. So differential diagnosis, which we always need to consider. So much. Oh, that's because I'm pressing this. Got confused when my mouse was. That was over here. So the DSM helps us out with the differentials. It gives us other things to consider. So it gives us substance use disorder. Well, that doesn't fit. Schizophrenia and bipolar doesn't fit. Or another personality disorder. We've just looked at them. We've just looked at the ones that we've thought of. Doesn't fit. Oh, look. Criminal behavior not associated with a mental disorder. Antisocial personality disorder must be distinguished from antisocial behavior not due to a mental disorder, for example, criminal behavior undertaken for a gain that is not accompanied by the personality features characteristic of this disorder. In these cases, the condition, adult antisocial behavior, may be coded. The other conditions that may be a focus of clinical attention. That's interesting, isn't it? What do we make of what that says? Well, that seems to be suggesting that you could code it under this. The condition adult antisocial behavior. So it's not antisocial personality disorder, it's adult antisocial behavior. I just repeat that because they sound quite similar. So the DSM suggests we could code this thing called adult antisocial behavior. The other right. So if I paste this into search, let's see if it comes up. Adult antisocial behavior. Oh, it's got a Z code. Adult antisocial behavior. This category may be used when the focus of that's pretty much what it just said above. Antisocial behavior that is not attributable to a mental disorder, e.g. conduct disorder and examples of good behavior, some professional thieves, racketeers or dealers in illegal substances. This is the best fit. Surely it's a Z code, which means it's like an other. The ones we looked at before were F codes. So it's not, this isn't a diagnosis, it's more of an explanation. So at least we can kind of come to a conclusion. Oh, Patrick's along to for a spanner in our works. Also, I question true antisocial behavior. He has been able to run a loyal crew for at least 10 years and then was able to cooperate with Vanda for many years leading up to his initial rebellion. Yeah. Can antisocial behavior also be stable, continuously, moderately successful? I guess so. I mean, I work in the justice system and I see lots of kind of offenders who are pretty successful at what they do and have been for a while. And it doesn't cause them any distress or anything. Getting caught and being punished causes them distress. But the actual acts that led them there don't. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. I best pop that out. Otherwise people will think that's just really random. So what do we think? Have we come to a conclusion? If antisocial behavior is a description of behavior, then who's to say he hasn't developed it over time? And it could be situational. It could be situational. And I guess because this isn't a personality disorder, it doesn't have to be something that's been seen through the lifetime. It doesn't have to be pervasive. It could be situational. And because it's not a diagnosis, it doesn't have like what you have on some diagnoses, which says you must have presented this way for 3 months or 6 months or through the lifespan. It doesn't have that criteria with it because it's not a diagnosis. So I guess the question then is how many times do you have to present with some kind of antisocial behavior for it to be antisocial behavior? Like just once? Is that enough? Is that technically antisocial behavior? Like twice or 10? Like where do you draw the line? But again, it having this label of an adult antisocial behavior doesn't like help in any way. It doesn't lead to any treatment. It doesn't lead to any insurance reimbursement or anything. So the choices would either be a descriptor of adult antisocial behavior or just nothing. Just he's a guy just trying to get on with his life and trying to fix some social inequality. Yeah, V-Law. I do. So yeah, this has gone off track a bit. If I don't know if you've attended these before, this does tend to happen now and then. But I was just so engrossed with this kind of idea of whether he was diagnosable or not.